All right. And before we get to week 2, we do have to give a recap of week 1, how we both did in our winners and losers awards for week 1. So starting off week 1, the Bears defensively showed up, but unfortunately the offense did not. Packers beat the Bears. And then the next game, and Johnny's upset pick was correct, as the Titans did knock off the Browns in a very, very big fashion, I might add. One of the bigger landslide victories of this past week. Speaking of dominance, the Ravens won both of our lock of the weeks as well. Miami forgot to realize what an NFL team is.
No, that wasn't my lock of the week.
What was your lock of the week?
After. It was Seahawks over the Bengals.
Which so you barely won that one. Yeah, you should have went with me and picked Ravens on that one.
I didn't want to pick the Dolphins. I wanted to be a little bit more, risky.
And riskiness almost cost you, so I'm glad I did not go risky. And hello, Sands Gaming. Alright, Falcons lost to the Vikings. Vikings dominated that one. The Jets choked the game in the fourth quarter to the Bills. Redskins choked their game to the Eagles, as Redskins were leading until the second half started, then the Eagles woke up. Rams beat the Panthers in what was a good game. Chiefs beat the Jaguars, which was injury-prone to high heaven. I said hello, Sands. Bolts beat the Colts in what was a pretty interesting matchup. The Seahawks, who was dry because they don't know how to play football. The 49ers destroyed the Buccaneers.
Buccaneers, I thought they were actually going to do something.
You were, I'm kind of glad I don't have faith in the Bucs. Pats destroyed the Steelers. That was a stupid decision by Houston. And of course the Broncos lost to the Raiders, so I went 10-5-1. Johnny went 11-4-1. Alright, for the awards, first off, I'm going to start out with all their defense had to do was play good football for a minute, and they blew it against the BYU. Suppose for the NFL, that one's a little harder, because the Redskins blew it, the Jets choked a game away, and that's pretty much how I got to look at it. You could technically say Cleveland because Browns were favored, but I'm going to go with the Jets as my choke artist of the week, because you are up 16-0, and you let the Bills get an unanswered 17 points. That's a terrible job on the defense and the offensive side of the ball.
I'm going to say the Lions, because they had an 18-point lead, and they had to defend for like 6 minutes. 6 minutes. How do you not defend a 18-point lead in with like 6 minutes left?
I couldn't see where you're going with the Lions, but since that game ended in a tie, I can't really say they choked the win away, since they technically didn't lose.
I know, but they could have had a win. That's what I'm trying to say.
I know.
Could have easily. They're my choke artists of the week, even though the Jets blew it in a more spectacular fashion. I'd say I'm going to stick with Lions.
Alright. As far as for the best team of week 1, it depends on how you view the best team. Do you view it as a team that pretty much dominated an opponent who had no business being there, like Ravens over Miami? That was not even a game. I don't even think that was ever close. Patriots and Steelers really wasn't close either. And Dallas and the Giants weren't close either. So I really had to figure out, what do I base this on? Do I base it on the team did well against a shitty team, or a team who beat another good team in spectacular fashion? But because I said dominance, I'm going to go with the Ravens over the Dolphins, but let's be honest here, that game was a joke. If you're a Miami fan.
Yeah.
That game was a joke. At least, and I know everyone's like, well, Miami scored more points than the... I know what Brad's going to say, because Brad was being, diehard Ravens fan, saying, but it's the Dolphins, you don't choose who you play on the schedule. That's true, but everybody knew Dolphins were going to be terrible during the final week of the preseason. And I know everyone would say the Steelers because they lost by 30-some-odd points, but no one really expected the Steelers to do much either, and same with the Giants. That's why I had a hard time with this, because it's like, who do I really believe was the worst team to lose, and it was the Dolphins. But who's yours?
Do you want me to pick the worst team?
The most dominant team in the week 1. Because I have a friend.
I'm just going to say Ravens over the Dolphins, just because. Point-wise, I guess.
Fair enough. Yeah, because week 1 was hard to see the most dominant. But, that being said, The worst team of week 1 is not Miami. It's not Pittsburgh. It's not even the Jets, the Lions, or the Cardinals. No. The worst team of week 1, at least to me, is the Atlanta Falcons, because they didn't show up at all in that game. They were dead. Didn't show up at all.
Every time they tried scoring, they
threw a pick.
Tried to throw it away, and it was intercepted anyway. I was just like, yeah, that's over.
Yeah, that game was over, and I kind of wish I would have picked Minnesota. But if Minnesota can stay like this, they're gonna be dangerous. And that's it for the awards this week, at least on my side. Johnny, do you have any other awards?
Well, I'm gonna think some more for next week, I suppose.
Week 2, alright. Yeah, week 2 we can get more out, like who was the best team who lost, who was the team that should have lost, which if we did that this week, it would be the Bengals and Seahawks, respectively. I will say this, though. Best game of the week for me personally was the Saints and Texans. That was a great game, and how great was it? People actually stopped watching Monday Night Raw to watch that game. Not even Steve Austin could help WWE at that night. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say the Ravens and Dolphins was the best game.
Can I please just say it? I mean, come on. As a Ravens fan, like, look at this shit. The Ravens won dominantly, even though it was a shitty Dolphins team, but, I mean, we kind of, ultra dominated them. I expected more like a 31 to, nothing match, not a fucking 59 smackdown.
Yeah. But we're getting to week 2 now. Yeah. So week 1's in the past.
Let's see,
Goodbye, week 1. To week 2, we start off with tomorrow night. It is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who really didn't bother to show up against San Francisco, taking on a Carolina team who kind of was in the fight a bit for the Rams until near the end. The game is in Carolina. It is a short week for both. I'm taking the Panthers here after seeing how bad the Buccaneers were this past week. I said in week 1 I don't trust Jameis Winston. I don't trust him now, so I'm going with the Panthers.
I don't trust him either. I'm convinced now. He's not going to work out. There's going to be a new starting quarterback next year. Otherwise, Tampa Bay's just going to riot.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that. Moving on to Baltimore.
So I'm taking Panthers.
So yeah, we're both taking Panthers. We head to Baltimore next as the Arizona Cardinals, who are technically still undefeated, take on another undefeated team in the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Arizona was able to come back and tie the game. They could have won the game if the defensive player would have intercepted the ball. Unfortunately, he dropped the interception that would have gave him a chance to win with a 36-yard kick. But Arizona played bad the first 3 quarters. They didn't, wake up till the 4th quarter. Baltimore, we pretty much saw what happened against Miami. Baltimore dominated. Johnny, I'll let you go first here.
I'm taking the Ravens easily. They're not going to probably lay down a beating like last game, but I think they should get the job done against the Cardinals.
And
probably
I agree.
I'm thinking around a 17-point victory, probably.
I agree as well. I have the Ravens winning this one. This is not my lock of the week just because of the fact of Arizona's wake-up call in the 4th quarter. I think if Baltimore does what it did against Miami, this game will be over before halftime. Next, well, we already know who I'm picking in this one. It is the 1-0 Cowboys taking on the Redskins. Cowboys dominated against the Giants. The Redskins, after leading at halftime, choked the game away. And I know the scoreboard would say it was close. It really wasn't as close as it was made to be. Because by that point, the Redskins were able to get garbage points. And if you don't know what the term garbage points means, it means they're getting points by the time the game's over. There's nothing they can do to come back and win. Now, the game is in Washington, so I should point that out. The biggest question is going to be here, particularly with the Redskins, can they hold on to a lead if they get it? Because we just saw them implode against the Eagles. So it's going to really depend on see what that offense and defense does. But me know who I'm taking. Cowboys for life.
I was torn on this game. I was kind of wanting to take Redskins, but I took the Cowboys. I think they're the better team overall.
Which I will say this, if the Cowboys win, I am going to make so much fun of you, Corey, because you've been dogging Dallas since they beat the Giants, saying, Dak Prescott's not a good quarterback. Look who they played. I'm sorry, your team was up big at halftime. Your defense choked. Yes, I know you're going to say, well, the offense didn't put points up. You know what, though? At that same token, if the offense can't step it up, that's when your defense has got to step it up and make stops. That's what was great about the '85 Chicago Bears. Their defense always saved them. So there's that. And if the Cowboys do lose, one of my friends who on Facebook, he knows who he is. All right. Up next, it is the Indianapolis Colts, after almost beating the Chargers this past week, take on the Titans, who are pretty much dominant in their win. As a matter of fact, the Titans are the only one who won in their division, as the Colts, Jaguars, and the Texans both took an L this past week. The game is in Tennessee, and I am going to take the Titans. I just think they're way better on paper. We know how I feel about the Colts. I don't trust the Colts at all. Titans win.
Yeah, I think Tennessee is going to go 2-0. I think they'll do enough to get the win.
Same here. Moving on to Pittsburgh, we have Seattle, who barely beat the Cincinnati Bengals, taking on the Steelers team, who, let's be honest, that Sunday night game was a joke. So much so, in fact, I actually got on PSN like at halftime because that game was over by that point. I don't trust the Steelers. The Steelers only put up 3 points. They look like a train wreck, and it's pretty funny. The center's the only one for the Steelers who did not get hit with a false start.
Is it kind of weird that I'm taking the Steelers here?
Yes.
I mean, yes, they look trash. I'm just going to say this. It's the Steelers thing to do. Steelers do that all the time. They play so bad against New England, and they're probably going to play like an actual team against Seattle. That's what I think. So I'm going to actually take them to... That'll probably be our first disagreement.
That is our first disagreement, surprisingly. Well, this might be the next one. We stay in New York City for the Bills as the Buffalo Bills travel to the Giants. Technically a home game for the Giants, but the Buffalo's not that far, so home field advantage is really out of the question here. The Giants really didn't look that great against Dallas. I mean, excluding the lead they had at the start of the first quarter, the Giants imploded. Bills, who looked like crap the first 3 quarters, wake up in the fourth and get a 17-point comeback to beat the Jets. So the question is, Johnny, because I'm going to let you pick first, who do you trust more, Buffalo Bills in the fourth quarter or the Giants to actually lead a whole game?
This is the question. I'm taking Bills. I trust Josh Allen a lot more than Eli Manning.
I am taking the Bills as well. Like I said, I've been high on the Bills defense this year. And the thing with the Giants, excluding the running game, they don't really have anybody else. Moving on to the next game, we head to WKRP Cincinnati as the Bengals are at home to take on the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers dominated against Tampa Bay, and the Bengals kind of almost beat Seattle, so it makes you wonder, maybe the Bengals are not as bad as we thought. But I'm taking the Niners here. Just too much weapons on the defense. Offensively, I might say the Bengals are a little better, but defensively, the Niners win this.
Yeah, I'm saying the Niners win this.
This is weird. We've only disagreed on one game. Oh, boy. Up next, it is the Chargers taking on the undefeated tied Lions. Well, as I just said, the Lions have not lost. They just tied. The Chargers had a little bit of a scare against the Colts, but the Chargers were able to win in the end. The game was in Detroit, and I am taking the Chargers here. I don't trust the Lions. I think after seeing how bad they did mess up that fourth quarter, I got to go with the Chargers. They're just a better team on paper.
I'm still going to take the Chargers. Detroit even then, the first 2 quarters, they didn't look great. I mean, it was more of Arizona just being bad.
I kind of agree there. Moving on to Green Bay, we have an interesting matchup here. This was probably one of my harder picks, as it is the Vikings, who pretty much dominated Atlanta on all aspects of the field, offense, defense, special teams, taking on the Packers, who defensively looked pretty great against Chicago, but offensively, the Packers didn't do that well. I mean, they only really put up 10 points. I mean, and you have Aaron Rodgers, so I expect better. I mean, I know you could say, well, it's week 1 jitters and all that. We see how they do in week 2. I know my boy Travis, he was like, how could you bet against Green Bay? And he understood my reasons why. In this game, when it came down to me, I don't trust the Packers offense enough yet to actually go with them. You know, I think defensively, their team can win a game. I don't know if it comes down to the offense, can they, after how we seen them in week 1. Vikings look great across all aspects of the field. I am taking Minnesota to win in Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Vikings to win in Green Bay. The Packers just did look great on Thursday.
I'm going to say this right now. If we agree on the rest of these picks, everybody just pick the opposite of what we had.
Oh, trust me.
Excluding the Steelers-Seahawks game.
One pick. There's going to be one pick I think we'll definitely disagree on.
Moving on to Houston, it's the Texans taking on the Jags. Both teams lost this past week, but the Texans looked better. Jacksonville will not have Nick Foles, so will be starting the rookie quarterback, who did play well. And that kind of had me a hard time picking this one, because I'm like, I don't know how he's going to do. Was it a fluke that he played well, because Kansas City didn't have anything on him? Houston should have something on him at this point. I'm taking Houston, though, at home. I trust their offense more, and I trust their defense way more. I just wish they would learn to actually be ball hogs before they get a touchdown and not let a team come back and win.
Yeah, I'm taking the Texans. I just don't think the rookie, what's his name, Minshew?
I can't even pronounce his rookie name, so don't. I'm not even going to try. Up next is my lock of the week. It is the Patriots traveling to Miami. I know my buddy Clark. He's a Dolphins fan, and he was embarrassed for what happened against Baltimore, and he's like, oh, wait a minute. We played the Patriots in week 2, and they got Antonio Brown. He's already said, we may as well just get the funeral march out and be done with it, because we ain't getting nothing done. Miami looked terrible. I don't even know who the starting quarterback's going to be this week. It's either Ryan Fitzpatrick or the guy they got from Arizona, who both played terrible. Patriots looked like they could have won the game against the Steelers without their starters. They definitely didn't need Antonio Brown. I'm taking the Patriots here. This is like the lock of the week. The Patriots are just 100% better team on every category.
Do I even have to say anything for this pick? Do I even have to?
You're taking the Patriots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Miami's going to be... I don't think neither one of us will pick Miami until we're drunk. Well, I'm drunk. Moving on to the Oakland Raiders, as they are home after beating the Broncos. They invite the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, both of these teams on the field, but seems like Oakland didn't really need Antonio Brown, as they did pretty well without him. But the question is, was that because they played the Denver Broncos, or is it because they're that good? I am taking Kansas City. Again, Chiefs just better all around.
This is my lock of the week. I'm taking the Chiefs over the Raiders. Not because how bad the Raiders are, because I think the Chiefs are a lot better.
Excuse me, fogging my throat. Alright, next we head to Los Angeles for the rematch of the NFC Championship game. It's the Saints and Rams. Saints coming off a miracle win this past Monday, and the Rams coming off a good win over Carolina. Now, of course, this is a rematch. I'm expecting this one to be a little bit violent, because I'm sure the Saints are not happy with the Rams because of how the playoffs ended last year. This is one of the games of the week. It is I think it is the game that is showing in most states because of the drama and the build-up and all that. I am taking the Saints here. I said before the Saints want revenge. I do hope, though, they don't let that vengeance cloud their judgment.
This is going to be another disagreement. I'm taking the Rams. I just think New Orleans played sloppy until like the second half. Then I think that's where they actually showed up. I think to play against the Rams, you actually need to like show up in the the first half, because I think the Rams just controlled the Panthers game from like the second quarter.
They did.
Yeah, and plus, what you said about that revenge mentality, if that's going to be how they go into this game, I don't think that's how they're going to win. If they're going to need to win this game, they can't think about that game. They just got to think about this as just any other game.
Well, I would agree with you with that. You know that's all they're going to be talking about during the game is the BS call from last year. That's all they're going to be discussing the entire game and commentating and pre-game show. So thank God for the mute button. Up next, the last 425 game, it is the Chicago Bears going against the Denver Broncos. Broncos looked good in the end against the Raiders, but really didn't start out the gate hot. Chicago, defensively, like I've said earlier, probably the best defensive team, but offensively, they have issues. And this is my upset pick. I am taking the Denver Broncos at home over Chicago. Believe it or not, Chicago is favored by...
What the fuck?
Chicago is favored by 3 points.
Why do we have the same upset pick? I wanted to choose Denver.
Well, I didn't trust Chicago's offense after seeing how bad they played, so...
Yeah. Yeah, we're apparently both taking the Broncos now.
All right, and that gives us to the Sunday night game. It is the Eagles taking on the Falcons. Falcons that didn't show up at all against Minnesota till too little too late. And the Eagles showed up in the second half to get the dominant win over the Redskins. I'm taking the Eagles here. I don't trust Atlanta after seeing how bad they played against Minnesota. I think this could be one of those games to where, hey, if you don't want to watch the whole game, if it's over by halftime, which it could very well be, go watch Night of Champions or go play a video game, because that may be more fun. But Eagles win.
Eagles win.
And then the last one. The Browns at the Jets. Both teams coming off heartbreaking losses. Jets choked a game away. And the Browns, well, did not live up to the hype. Now, this is a bounce back week for both of them. And I'm going to take, and I don't know if they're going to win, because this was a hard pick for me, but I am taking the Cleveland Browns. I am going to buy into them one more time. But if they lose to the Jets, that's not going to look good, and that's going to make a lot of people who said they were going to win the division or at least make the playoffs this year, and I'm one of them, look very stupid. But I'm taking Cleveland.
I'm taking Cleveland just on the account that the Jets look worse than the Browns. I mean, for the Jets at least, I think the Browns actually have a team. Well, actually, no, I can't really say that though. The Jets do have. I think it's just. I mean, you can't really say much because off of week one, they both. Jets blew their own lead, and the Browns just stopped. Looks like they just gave up after like the that Derrick Henry touchdown.
Yeah. But,
like,
excuse me, flogging my throat. Alright, but that is going to be the picks for this week. I have to go now because I got to get back to more packing and moving. So next time you'll probably see me at least with a video-wise with week's picks. You're not really going to see me on too much on PlayStation except for once in a blue moon. And that's a very rare blue moon. But until then, I do hope everyone has a good week too, and see you next time.